Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. You've got me. You've got the big kahuna. Big kahuna is in the house, and I have been watching everything like a hawk today. Not to mention, we're going to turn loose the Kraken. That's right, folks. The Kraken is back. That's about all the Kraken we're going to get. We were told there's going to be other Krakens out there doing stuff. Not quite, just this one right here. And we, that is you and I, the Prepared Mind Network, we are extremely busy. Extremely busy, folks. I want you to get your questions in because this is the monologue followed by the Q&A during the week. And you guys, even if you think I'm going to cover something, even if you think I've already talked about it, put your question down to Jolene there. And your words, your phrases may trigger, in a good way, may trigger some additional thoughts on what is going on. Because there are layers upon layers upon layers upon layers upon layers everywhere of shit that is developing right now. What is happening to us is both reality and a distraction. What is happening to us is a dismantling of our country as they take it down, followed by an increase in their power for their new world order concepts. It is left, it is right, it is up, it is down, it is black, it is white, it's invisible. The invisible hand of the Illuminati, the bad guys, is at work. But it's being competed against by the invisible hand of the good guys. There's good guys fighting, folks. If there were not good guys fighting, guess what? This would have been over and done decades ago. Not just days or weeks or even a couple of years. They would have been over the top of us and creaming us decades ago. So, bearing that in mind, the fact that they just can't seem to fully defeat the Constitution, right? We are fighting and it matters. You are prepping and then you prep to action. We're all fighting at whatever level we're on. And we're fighting, folks, the good fight. I want you to fight the good fight. Now, let's start with Kenosha, Wisconsin, where Kyle Rittenhouse is on trial for his life. And you and I, our right to self-defense is on trial. And I mentioned this way last week when I said, hey, look, this isn't about Kyle Rittenhouse. This is about you. It's about me. It's about all of us. As free people, do we have a right to self-defense? Well, the government would have you say no. No, of course not. Only the state can protect you, and only the state can provide limited ability for you to do so, or not at all, depending on their moment, their thought of the moment. Unbelievable. Now, I was telling someone that I was texting with, and let me pull it up. I want to thank Tony. Hey, Tony, thanks a lot again for the prep, the text there. But I was talking to P, and I said, you know, the defense for Kyle Rittenhouse should have already drafted a motion to dismiss on the grounds of prosecutorial misconduct, prejudicial prosecution, miscarriage of justice, jury interference, judicial interference, malicious prosecution, and general prosecutorial fuckery. The judge is being threatened in the Kenosha, Wisconsin case. So much so, apparently over 100 threats have come in against his life that they are assigning law enforcement police protection to him. And outside the courthouse, folks, Black Lives Matter. The BLM protesters are outside there, and they're doing what? They haven't done anything yet, but they're threatening more violence. Hey, 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 where is the FBI? This is a group of people who may be just an idea, but that idea managed to burn down, assault, destroy, shut down cities, destroy entire financial districts, destroy entire retail districts, people's lives, their retirements, their business, their investments, destroyed by an idea. Well, if an idea can destroy, folks, it's a real thing. and real things can be stopped. They can be arrested. But BLM is now threatening more violence, folks. Threatening more violence. And they're not going to quit. Remember, this is Kyle Rittenhouse, a white guy who's being accused of murder because he shot 2 white people and shot a 3rd white person who didn't die. So 2 died, 1 didn't. This is all white people going on here, folks. And BLM is saying that they're going to commit great acts of violence. Now, on a similar note, a critical race theory supporter showed up to threaten parents who questioned critical race theory and said, quote, "I've got over 1,000 soldiers locked and loaded." That is a physical threat. It's a physical threat of violence for doing nothing more than disagreeing on a political concept, a political idea. You see, to these people on the far left, an idea is their reality, and they make their ideas into reality. For some reason, though, the FBI doesn't see that as a threat, whereas a parent says, "We've got an idea. How about you quit teaching our children bullshit?" And that idea is considered an act of violence. So much so, folks, that the FBI and the Department of Justice, under direction of the Attorney General, Merrick the Fuckstick Garland, have designated parents in the United States of America as domestic terrorists. Having committed no act of violence, no parent has. No parent has committed arson. No parent has looted stores. No parent has assaulted or murdered other people. No parents have attacked police officers, injured police officers, maimed police officers, attacked courthouses, attacked police stations, or attacked police cars. BLM and Antifa have done all of those things and more. Now, is that reality, or is that just a distraction from what's going on? I'm going to tell you right now, folks, it is both. It is both an event and a distraction from other events. And there is no way out of this mess except to go through Shitville. We're going to have to go through Shitville, folks. They've promised it. They're delivering. Show up, folks. Show up, because if you don't participate, you're not going to have a say in your own life. How do you show up? Get prepped, and then prep to action. Start taking action, because if you don't resist these people, they're going to keep pushing and taking things over, right? And it's not just it's the actions that happen by the leftists come as a result of them making proclamations that are so stupid, even stupid people go, "What did they just say?" But they make these idiotic proclamations, and if no one argues with them, they assume victory and do what they want. For example, the Kenosha prosecutor who's going after Kyle Rittenhouse claims that a violent mob of rioters that attacked Kyle Rittenhouse were heroes who, quote, "did the right thing," end quote, close quote, dumb quote. That's what a lawyer, a supposed person of higher education who understands what they call law. No. They understand court procedure. That's not law. Court procedure is not law. The outcome of a trial as determined by a jury is not law. That is a jury trial, not law. It's supposed to be based on concepts that arise from law, concepts of common sense, human decency, and the law. But folks, it's a mess. Did you know that the rioters that were burning, looting, assaulting, murdering, and destroying things in Kenosha, Wisconsin, they were heroes? And by attacking Kyle Rittenhouse, they were doing the right thing? That is the clown show, folks, that is both a distraction and the reality. Because if it was just a distraction, it wouldn't affect our lives. But because it is affecting our lives, and quite possibly if Kyle Rittenhouse is found guilty of any charge, then all of us are going to have to suffer the consequences of district attorneys going, "Yeah, we're going to make that same argument for any patriotic, tax-paying, law-abiding citizen that dares protect themselves or others from great bodily harm and injury. And it will prove and show beyond a shadow of a doubt that having video evidence of you defending yourself and others is not going to be good enough. Look out. Are you prepared? This is not going to get better, folks. There is no way out of this shitstorm. And I've done a number of videos today. I'm fucking exhausted. I did some short videos. I did all kinds of stuff. There's so much going on, folks. It is mind-numbing. Right. I wanted to bring this up, right? Representative Cori Bush, who, by the way, is a Marxist communist pile of shit, right? She posted a bizarre tweet. She claimed that white supremacists shot at protesters in Ferguson. Remember Ferguson? That was in St. Louis, Missouri, I believe, Ferguson, right? She's claiming white supremacists shot at protesters. They're just making up stories now, folks. Truth is dead to the left. We will never convince them. Take them and just scrape all of their bullshit off the plate. They're liars. Whether they're politicians, attorneys, judges, or whether they're people on the street, people in college, they're just liars. We have to sweep them aside, and we need to learn and understand the real truth, folks. The real truth is we have rights. Those rights are inalienable, meaning they can't be taken away, they can't be dismissed, they can't be discharged, they can't be ignored. Your rights are real. That is a truth. It is a fact. It is written. It is law. It became enshrined in our law, our tradition, our culture, and our history, folks, in the Declaration of Independence. An enormously powerful document that is alive today. That document breathes when you and I breathe oxygen in and out. I want you up and understanding. I want you motivated. I want you positive in understanding that, yeah, you're alive and you can fight this war. And it is an information war. It is a psychological war. And you will not let them defeat you because truth is on your side. The communists, they have lies, subterfuge, they have sophistry, and they have bullshit. And they're using that as their foundation. Folks, have you ever stood in shit? A big pile of steamy bullshit? You don't float on top of it, you sink through it, right? It's not a very good foundation. Now, the foundation established by the Declaration of Independence, which was the grounds on which our great nation was founded, the foundation, are solid. And you can stand there right now and you won't sink in it. It is the Declaration of Independence, and it is law. It is law. You know what's right and wrong, folks. Let us move on, folks. I'm telling you, I got a bunch here. The Scottsdale Unified School District is trying to get rid of their board member whose dad was stalking everybody. There's supposed to be an investigation into what this guy is threatening. The board president there has refused to resign, and he is blaming bad actors for his family's creepy activities. Isn't that fascinating? It's bad actors. You know what he's blaming without saying it? Parents. It's the parents who are the bad actors, and his family is just doing what they can to what? Maintain their creepitude? That's about it, folks. Now, we have to be careful. This is an article, folks, about the CDC. You can get the article on Patreon. I really want everyone I can get on Patreon. If you're on YouTube, Patreon is only $2 a month. This channel can be taken down any minute, any second, during this broadcast even. This video can be removed because there's too much truth in it for them to handle. But on Patreon, it will not be taken down. And if it's taken down, it'll be replaced. We're working and continuing to work and investigate other social media sources, but we do use YouTube to reach the masses. If you are awake and you're a prepper, then you know what to do. You have to, folks. You have to be a part of the Prepared Mind Network, and Patreon is a huge part of that. So I'm going to give you a couple of tastes of this. A couple of tastes. There's regular flu. Regular flu, folks. There is regular flu on the University of Michigan campus. And what are they talking about? They want people to get the regular flu shot. I wonder why. Why are so many people getting sick with regular flu? There's a lot of information out there, folks. You need to be aware. Taiwan, again, Taiwan is saying Taiwan is having heart problems. Taiwan is having heart problems. Go to Patreon for the full story and what they're doing about it. And this is interesting also. An Obama-appointed judge, right, is becoming an activist. Are you surprised or what? I can't tell you what the rest of that is, folks. It just has to do with mandates in schools. This is going to get worse and worse, folks. That is to say, until it gets better. Between now and then, you and I have a massive fight. Massive fight, folks. Now, we've heard the expression, you will own nothing and be happy. That is what Klaus Schwab, right? That is what the IMF, that is what the Europeans are being told. They're not that brazen over here yet. But how is it they intend to get us from you own stuff, including yourself, to you will own nothing and you'll be happy about it? Folks, they're not going to come to our doors and demand, give us your stuff, because that would cause a violent opposition to their efforts. Instead, they will ruin the economy, and they have that power, and that is done. Our economy is destroyed, right? They will destroy the value of our currency, remove it, change it, exchange it for their special digital token coins. And they have the power, and they're planning on doing that, right? They want to destroy our culture, our history, and our social norms, and replace it with what they forced through their perverted educational and media authority system. Isn't that what they're doing right now? They're using the education system to push their perverted thinking. They're using the mainstream media, entertainment, to push their perverted system. And they're using big tech, social media, to push their changes in our culture, our history, our social understanding of who we are. Right? The economy, our currency, our money, our history, our laws, our constitution. Once they have it changed, folks, they won't have to do anything because the damage is already done. They don't have to come to your door and demand you give up your rights because people are voluntarily just giving them up. They're voluntarily giving them up. Isn't that unbelievable? Well, to me it is. To me, it's really unbelievable that they're doing this. And they continue to do it. This is how they intend to get us to own nothing and be happy as people get kicked out of their houses and lose their houses, as they go from owning cars to just leasing cars, as they go from making enough money to pay all their bills and live a nice lifestyle, they have enough money to barely make it through life. And the rich, wealthy super bankers have decided you're going to be happy with that. They're going to tell you how happy you are, because if you dare complain, if you bring up an argument, if you speak your mind, you will be destroyed. Everything from a visit by the FBI or your city's social workers, to Antifa and BLM on your lawn, to people at your job doxing you, outing you, and shitting on you and having you lose your job. You see, they're attacking on every level, hurting your children. Every level, folks. Every level. That's how they will get us from where we are to you will know nothing. In the UK, in England, they're doing what they're doing here in America, folks. This is a worldwide problem when it comes to supermarkets putting decoys, strange products, extra inventory on the shelves to hide the fact that many of the items are now coming up short. Expect more of this. And it'll go right along with all of the inflation. As the cost of stuff goes up and there's less of it, expect more. And if you were as old as I am, you would remember from the Soviet Union, when I was taught in the 80s, that people stood in line and hoped there was something after standing in line for hours, something that would be given to them to eat. And when you went to the department store to do your shopping, you didn't have a dozen pairs of jeans to choose from, and you didn't have all the sizes. You had one style of jeans and you bought them. You had one fashionable shirt and you bought it. That's it. You don't get 500 options. You don't get 3,000 choices. You don't have unending opportunities. You have very limited, specific, and that's all you get. And you'll be happy. Remember that, folks. Now, your rights, they believe, are subject to their will and their permission for us to exercise them. That's right. The powers that be think that if you don't do what they say, they can't directly make you folks take an experimental mind-numbing agent. They can't expect you or demand. They use the word mandate, but they can't make you. They're not mandating anybody. What they're mandating is obey or be punished. And then they're making companies fire you, right? They're taking away your rights and liberties. Well, if you aren't going to do as we say, then we're going to take away your ability to go shopping or even go out in public. In other words, you're under house arrest for not obeying a wish of the government. Remember, government does not do anything nice or kind. Government has authority. It doesn't have rights. It has authority to tell you to do things, or someone will show up with a gun, right? In other words, if you don't do as they say, it's a crime. Well, not taking the Jim Jones juice isn't a crime. They won't come and arrest you for it, but they will start ordering you in other ways. What the fuck is the difference? What is the difference? If they can order you to not do anything, that's the same as ordering you into a prison without a trial, without due process. They're depriving you of your rights without due process. Once again, they cannot take your right. Like if they lock you in prison, no longer do you have the ability to travel. If they're going to deprive you of the right to be free, there has to be a crime, there has to be due process, and a trial by a jury of peers. They're just telling people in Australia, get in your house and stay there. They're telling people in Austria and Australia. They're telling other people, you won't be able to go in stores in New York, places in California. You can't go in stores, restaurants, or go even out in public. Going to gyms, going to sporting events, going to the beach, going to parks. You can't enjoy any of that. You're being deprived of your rights, your natural rights, folks. You cannot be deprived of natural rights without a trial and a crime having been committed. In Latvia, they're saying that politicians who have not gotten the Jim Jones juice can't vote. So everyone is being disenfranchised in Latvia. And those politicians are having their pay suspended because they haven't obeyed. There is no way out of this, folks. They're going to go down that road until they meet epic amounts, right? Epic amounts of resistance. Now, Dr. Fauci has been all over the news today, and it was exposed and revealed that Emory University is a training ground for Chinese, the People's Republic Army, the PLA, the People's Liberation Army of China. It's come out that Emory University is apparently or allegedly a Chinese military scientific partner. They're linked to the biowarfare research. And guess who is associated with it? That's right, a very small man with very small shoes is once again associated with the communists, the Chinese. At what point do we say, if Dr. Doom's goals and programs are in line and consistent with, supported of, and supported by Chinese communist agenda, does that make Dr. Doom a communist infiltrator? If you look at what he's demanding the end of your rights. Unbelievable. Yeah, let me remind you of what he said. Quote, there is a misplaced perception about people's individual rights to make a decision that supersedes the societal safety. Individual rights and our ability to decide for ourselves does supersede societal safety. Folks, safety is what they're using to tell us what to do. By claiming they don't feel safe or there's a medical hazard, therefore you have to obey everything they say and everything they do. I don't remember anywhere in the Declaration of Independence or in the Constitution where it says societal safety alienates or removes your God-given rights. Goes God, our God-given rights, created a government through the Constitution. Since when does the government get to say, well, societal safety is more important than your rights? But that's what he's pushing. And then saying that your beliefs, your understanding of truth, fact, and the law is a misplaced perception. How about this? He is a misguided dunderhead whose opinion does not change history. It does not change culture. It does not change the law. Dr. Doom is not a historical or a legal expert. He is a medical expert. But he is now out there speaking on our misplaced perceptions, folks. And the more they lie and the more people believe him, right, the more we need to sound off and object to everything they're saying. Right? The same way the Pentagon says they have the authority to require the Oklahoma National Guard to follow their mandate. The Pentagon is now claiming that it is the lawful authority. I don't know about you folks, but it's all starting to stink. It's all starting to stink like an agenda. Every little piece of these things that we cover, they're all a distraction and they're all an attack. The distraction is from one to another, from this news story back to this one, over to here, then up there, over and around. As Uman pointed out, he goes, every few days we get a new story, we get a new agenda, we get a new narrative and a new lie that we battle and battle and battle. Then they just change it to something else, right? The mainstream media is a big part of this. Folks, they lie to us about Antifa and BLM. They lie about everything. Here's a beautiful quote. Thank you, Citizen Free Press. A beautiful quote coming from a communist, Thomas E. Ricks, who has spent a good deal of time on Twitter saying things like, my presumption is that anyone tweeting that American cities burned in 2020 is either working for the Russians or a dumbass dupe of them. And then he goes on to say this, one thing I've learned, Russian bots love the false narrative that American cities were burned by leftists in 2020. Someone needs to do a better job of keeping these Putin-esque pests out of our social media. Anyways, I posted this along with all of the necessary, folks, all of the necessary tweets showing numerous Americans beaten to a pulp on the street, numerous American businesses and cities burned by these people. And this guy is out there lying directly to people's face. They're lying about Antifa and BLM. They're lying about the military. They're lying about mandates. They're lying about everything. Unbelievable, folks. I mean, how are they gonna negate this? Well, I'm just gonna give you a fact. I'm not violating any community guidelines or policies. But 8 fully vaccinated people died at a Connecticut nursing home. That's a fact. They were fully vaccinated and they were killed at a Connecticut nursing home. Explain that. If it works, why isn't it working? Is a question I heard someone asked. Here's another one, folks, how we're dealing with distractions that are also events that are changing the world in front of us. Are you prepared to defend your country, your history, your culture, your law, the Constitution? Belarus and Russia say that Poland is escalating the border crisis there because of what? Folks, did they launch missiles, rockets, and bombs? Did they set parts of Belarus on fire? Nope. They used water cannons and they shot them at illegal immigrants trying to invade their country. Folks, the people of the world should charge governments with escalating lies, as their lies are proven to be those lies, right? And water cannons, folks, are nothing compared to government lies, because the government lies, half the people believe it, and then the government takes another step forward and another step forward, and every now and then they'll take one back, and then they'll take 2 more forward. There is no way out of this. It is coming. It is coming. There is a country, Gibraltar. It's a little British colony down in the southern part of Spain. You might even call it an island. It is 100% vaccinated, folks. And here's a fact. They just canceled Christmas. Whoops-a-daisy. They just canceled Christmas at this place that is supposed to be the most vaccinated place in the world. 100%. Why? Because they have an exponential rise in people being infected. If it works, they're going to, if it works, they're using fear, they're using this premise that cerveza bug means lock everything down. And that's working great. The thing that they said should work, you take the Jim Jones juice and you won't have any problems. Well, guess what? People are having problems. That part doesn't work, but everything else does, which is all of their tyrannical demands. All of their tyrannical demands are working just fine because people are giving in. You and I, not so much. We're fighting. We're resisting. We're giving them hell, folks. And what are they doing? They're doing the very same back at us. How are we going to continue to fight them off, folks? If they continue to lie and use the media, education system, big tech, entertainment, and the police wherever they can to force their will upon us. Shit has hit the fan, folks, and there's no way out except now we've been thrown in the mud and we've got to crawl all the way through this stinky mess. Let's do this, folks. We're at the halfway point. Perfect timing as usual. Let's get to your questions. What do you want to talk about here as this week develops and as we're plastered with an entirely new layer of shit?
Are you ready?
Woo! Okay, Jolene, what do we got going? And I do want to say thank you to Jolene. Thank you to Uman. Thank you to everyone on the backside. Everyone who is a part of this network, my brothers, etc. Thank you to everybody. What a day. We're going to start with Latin America Preparedness, who has this to say. All of the people shot by Kyle were white. The entire incident was sparked with police shooting. Protests are likely to happen with the verdict, and the mainstream media want a race issue. Why nothing was said about police the call? Why was nothing said about police the call? They don't want this to be about the police. They, meaning the government, the prosecutors. They, meaning Antifa, and BLM. They, meaning the political left. They don't want this to be about the police in Kenosha, Wisconsin. They want this to be about a white kid who defended himself. And that's a racial issue. So they're using Antifa and BLM, these protesters. They, once again, are the dumb muscle. And instead of being put up against the police, the political left wants them to be pitted against you, me and you, the normal people, right down the middle. People who want freedom and liberty, people who want what? Our constitutional government to operate properly. So they're pitting these, shall we say, violent, aggressive idealists. They want them mad at us, the patriotic community. They don't want them fighting the police. Now they want them fighting us. They want armed conflict between you and I and Antifa and BLM. So the government can sit back and go, ho, 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 ho. You guys are not responsible. You're not mature. We need to take all the guns from everybody because you guys won't stop causing trouble. Because you can't behave. All you bad kids. That's what this is about. That is precisely what this is about, is your gun rights. That's what this trial is about, is taking away our right to self-defense. The more gun violence there is, the more, shall we say, partisan conflict there is. In 2020, it was BLM versus cops, BLM versus judges, BLM versus the courts, BLM versus police stations, BLM versus the business community, BLM and Antifa in all cases as well, against suburbia. Remember, they said, we're not going to stay in our own neighborhoods and just ruin them. We're coming out to suburbia and ruining your lives as well. We're going to go to your houses and make you scared and threaten you. Well, the news did not report, folks, all of the people who were shot at, and violently warned to get the hell out of their neighborhoods. It happened a lot. It's going to happen again. Yeah, they don't want the police to be the targets anymore. Now they want the police to be, part of the government. Right? Remember that defund the police is that the police were separate from the government. Now they want the government and the police rejoined. Police are fine. Right? We need to make Kyle Rittenhouse and anyone who supports him the bad guys. They're changing the narrative. They're giving us a new story to listen. They're giving us a new story to believe. Yeah, a white kid kills 3 white guys or shoots 3 white guys, kills 2 of them. Has nothing to do with race, but they're going to make it about race. Sit tight, put on your seatbelt, right? Hide and watch. It's coming. Thank you, Latin American Preparedness. We got James Nicholson who checks in and says, why do we have to raise the debt ceiling to pay our bills? Don't we bring in a shit ton in taxes every month? Well, the answer is yes and no. That is nothing but a pea and shell, smoke and mirrors, good time, plastic banana, rock and roll, Persian bazaar bullshit story about, well, we have a budget and we have so much money that we've got in taxes and everything just works out fine. They have overspent for decades. Our national debt is $30+ trillion. I don't even keep track of it anymore, folks. I don't even pay attention because they lie about it. The government doesn't have to print money anymore. Now they just type in some numbers in a computer and off it goes. And it tells federal agencies, it tells state agencies and state government, it tells local government and local agencies, you have this money in your account. Spend it as you need. Right? A balanced budget. Folks, if they've destroyed businesses, restaurants, employees, jobs, if we have massive unemployment, which they can't even properly figure anymore, if we have all of these problems, how are they collecting taxes? They're collecting taxes on fake money that they're giving to people who go out and spend fake money and create some sales tax, but not as many people are working, so they're not getting their payroll tax. So yeah, it's a valid question. How are they paying their bills? The way they're doing that is they don't have a treasury full of gold and silver. They just type in more numbers and say, bills are paid now. They take in tax revenue where they can, but when it comes to paying bills, they just type in more numbers and transfer it to the other side of the balance sheet as a debt. Now, here's the second part of his question. For your information, coming from James Nicholson, he says, a shit ton is equivalent to 24 metric ass loads and 1/10 of a fuck ton, provided courtesy of the Urban Dictionary. Yeah, it's a bunch of lies and smoke and mirrors and shit. They're driving us deeper in debt. They're just printing the digital currency, the digital dollar. There's no money being printed. They just put it digitally into their account and then spend it. That's what they're doing. That's all they're doing, folks. Now we got Fourth Dimension, which is Kaz, and I want to thank Kaz for his efforts over on the Fourth Dimension channel. And I do recommend going to the rsyndicate.com. The R Syndicate is the everything prepping channel, from products to techniques to gardening to defense to clothing to philosophical ideas, thoughts, news reporting. Everything is there. And speaking of that, we've got more products coming to the preparedmind.club. Again, the other day I was talking about that awesome flashlight, the Warrior, made by Olights, that we sell at the preparedmind.club. And Sensible Prepper did a nice, like a 15-minute review on it. And you can find Sensible Prepper either on YouTube or by going through the R Syndicate, just to give you an example. And Sensible Prepper does a lot of product reviews. Because he and others do product reviews, I do this, which is talk about how deep we've sunk in the shit quicksand of SHTF. So Fourth Dimension says this: Whiskey Alfa Romeo is inevitable, and it will get touchy-feely soon. Hard to argue with you. So Whiskey Alfa Romeo is WAR, and that spells a word that I like to euphemistically call partisan conflict. It is inevitable. I agree with you, Kaz, and it is going to get touchy-feely. And I like to quote AT&T, that great phone company, that great technology company, that great communications company, who say it's a good thing to reach out and touch someone. Now, I don't glamorize, glorify, incite, and still hope for violence. I just know it's going to become a way of life. A very dangerous and detrimental way of life, because there is no way out of this SHTF, folks. We can't just stop the bus and back it up, beep, beep, beep. Nope, you can't do it with the bus, the train, or the plane. The plane has now landed right in a big mud puddle of shit, and it's on the ground. We're gonna have to crawl, walk, and fight our way out of this mess. We are now in it to win it, or you're in it to become a slave. And the choice is yours, really. Do you want to be a slave? Then why the fuck aren't you getting prepared and taking action? You want to be a slave? Why are you not speaking up? You want to be a slave? If so, why aren't you getting fully prepared? And I know most of you are. Why aren't you speaking up and contacting your political officials, your local government officials, including any bureaucracy and law enforcement, and saying, hey, we have a United States Constitution, we have a state constitution, I have inalienable rights. What are you going to do to protect them? It's a fair question, don't you think? Hey, do you believe in the Constitution? And I'll tell you what, a lot of law enforcement will say yes. Sheriff deputies, yeah, they're going to say yeah. Of course, they've been brainwashed and educated in very bad schools about your constitutional rights and how restricted they are. But when you use things like malicious prosecution and a lawless arrest or an unlawful arrest, they get pretty nervous. They get what's called itchy ass, because they don't want to be accused of that and they don't want to be sued for it. So they know there's some very strict rules out there. But the more Gigi Biden and the state governments in these awful communist cities, counties, and states, the more they push, folks, the more they show there's a big difference between Democrat cities and free states. Free states like Texas, free states like Florida, free states like Missouri, which are becoming more free all the time. Free states like Arizona that are starting to stand up and say, no, sorry, federal government, sorry, state government, sorry, judges, you don't get to take our rights. Finally, folks, I'm 51 years old. After 51 years, about 40 years of me waiting, we're finally getting to the part where we say, enough is enough. We're done, and let's go, Brandon. Let's move on. Now we've got Electrical Serge checks in. He says, I have additional personal living in my household for 1 month. It opened up my eyes how much rice it takes to feed 3 adults for 1 week. Since then, I am doubling my rice buckets. Yeah, he has 1 additional person living in his house. It takes a lot of food to feed human beings. How much food do you have, and realistically, how long will it last with those in your house? If you do what Electrical Serge has done and take in 1 more human being, you'll see that that food that gets nibbled away at starts getting nibbled a lot faster, right? And it's gone. If you've got a month's worth of food, it disappears quick. You bring in extra people and it disappears twice as fast. Be fully prepared, folks. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, and a plan. Get it together. Yeah. Doubling rice buckets. Get rice, get beans. You can buy them in bulk and it's cheap. Get spices, different meat spices, different soup spices, get bouillon. It makes the same food taste different when you have different spices. Get canned meats. And if, folks, you don't have the ability to get fresh vegetables 12 months out of the year, you may be able to get fresh vegetables, folks, 6 months out of the year and save up a bunch and maybe get 12. But if you want to be assured of fresh and super nutritious stuff, get Sprouts. And again, check out Clearwater Chris. Clearwater Chris, his YouTube website, he talks about growing sprouts as your salad. You can grow a salad every 5 days. You got 5 jars, you got 5 days of salads. Let's move on to Uman, who has an excellent statement. I haven't read it, but I know it's excellent because it's coming from Uman. He says, the thought of trial by a jury of my peers is becoming less and less appealing to me these days. When that jury is full of sheep that can be intimidated or threatened by outside influences. Well, there it is, Uman. You nailed it. You nailed it, dude. Right out of the frickin' park. Right out of the park. Right off the end of the bat, and it's gone. Home run. When thugs can threaten juries and the police do nothing about it, and the Attorney General and Department of Justice does nothing about it at the state level, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation does nothing about it at the federal level, you now have institutionalized jury intimidation. Any case in which people are being threatened should be thrown out. Those people should be investigated, and if they did commit the actual crime of tampering with a jury, they should be charged, arrested, and themselves prosecuted. Yep. When they can be intimidated and influenced, and same with the judge. If a judge can be threatened and intimidated and there's no negative consequences, what do you think is going to happen next week, in the next jury trial, and then next month, and then any other case that's brought before the judiciary? If they can be threatened, how do we know we're going to get a fair shake? How do we know that the law will be upheld? What is our confidence in our judicial system? One of the 3 branches of government, right? Judicial, legislative, and executive branch. Well, the faith the American people have in our government is shrinking on a daily basis. Now, the good part is that a jury of your peers is 12 people. And you have to believe, folks, you would have to believe that in order to not get a single vote of not guilty, which you have to have all 12 people saying guilty, meaning beyond a shadow of a doubt, all 12 of them. But if you know what goes on in a jury, they're influenced by the outside, fear, threats, intimidation, threats to them, threats to their family. And then inside a jury deliberation room, you have intimidation, you have threats, you have lie, you have coercion between the jurors themselves. The only way to get a fair trial is to have somebody who believes in the law, the Constitution, and that it is supreme. Remember, the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. It means it's higher than anything else. The Constitution is higher than any statute. The Constitution is higher than any executive order. The Constitution is higher than any verbal mandate coming from a full diapers Biden. You just need one juror to say, not guilty, and you're fine. Sadly, man, you're right. It's looking like there are fewer and fewer people who are willing to stand up for what they believe. Do I want to be tried by jurors? A jury of 12? Nope. I don't think I'll get a jury trial. If I'm ever arrested, I could end up like those political prisoners in Washington, D.C., held indefinitely with no trial, denied a quick and speedy trial by jury, denied due process, denied habeas corpus, denied bail, denied the right to food and adequate prison housing. Right? In other words, they can keep me in a dirty, filthy, shit-covered cell with a toilet that overflows backwards. Same thing that's happening to those patriots in Washington, D.C. That's what they're complaining of, folks. Right? Do I want to be arrested and held for years in prison, beaten as a political prisoner, physically beaten and attacked and assaulted, denied haircuts, denied shaving, denied basic hygiene, denied legal assistance while I wait for a jury of intimidated peers to show up and be afraid of the state and be afraid of terrorists? I mean, Antifa and BLM. Right. I don't have a whole lot of faith, folks. I don't want to end up there. And that's why I don't think I'll allow myself to be arrested. I have committed no crime, period. There is no crime that I have committed. Maybe a speeding infraction, but that's no crime. They can't arrest you for going 3 miles over the speed limit. Still, folks, no thank you. We got Greg Madere with his question. He says, I heard that the jury wasn't sequestered. They have to go home and come back tomorrow. Can the National Guard keep them from suffering mental trauma? And will that affect the verdict? All great questions. Now, sequestering means typically in a high-profile case like this, like the Kyle Rittenhouse case, that's what we're talking about. In a high-profile case that has a lot of public exposure and a lot of social public negative consequences, that is people on the outside trying to influence them, intimidate them, tamper with the jury, the judge would say, you're going to the Hyatt, you're going to the Marriott, you're going to the Hilton, and you're each going to get your own room, and you're not allowed to talk to or make calls with anybody while we're doing jury deliberation, whether it takes 1 hour or 1 day or 1 week. So it's been stated by many legal experts that they did not sequester them, and that was a mistake. They're going home to their homes, they're going home to their families, where they will be talking about things with their family, talking about things. Friends are going to call them. Family is going to call them. Work is going to call them. They're going to ask them questions. They're going to try influencing them. It was a big mistake, in my opinion. And yeah, they're going to come back. And they're going to have all of this undue influence. They're going to have threats. It is going to affect the verdict. It is. Now, can the National Guard protect them? I don't know. Can 500 National Guardsmen protect 12 jurors? Makes me wonder. Now, are there going to be people who are trying to convince, persuade, in dramatic and even violent ways? Are there going to be people trying to do that to convict Kyle Rittenhouse using their influence on the jurors? The answer is yes. Are there going to be people that are going to try and put their influence on these jurors to acquit Kyle Rittenhouse? And the answer again is yes. I will say this unequivocally. No supporter of freedom and liberty is going to physically threaten violence, intimidation to the jurors. They will just say, this is what I think. On the leftist side, that is the radical, violent, terrorist, BLM and Antifa side, the radical communists, they will use intimidation. They will threaten them about their jobs. They'll threaten them about their children and their spouses. They'll threaten their lives, the jurists. They've already done it. They've said they're going to continue to do it, and they will. I really hope these jurors, those who know Kyle did not commit a crime here, those jurors, I hope and pray, have the courage of their convictions, that their beliefs are well-founded, that they rest on a foundation of liberty. And primary among that liberty, folks, is the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Property ownership, transportation, or locomotion. The right to go shopping, to go to a restaurant, to do what you want, go where you want, live as you please. That is what is enshrined in the statements: life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. But first and foremost amongst them is the right to life. You have a right to live. And if someone is threatening that right to live, you have the right to self-defense. And you have the right to use a gun in self-defense. If your life or great bodily injury and harm is threatened to you and you have what? You feel you're going to die, you can use deadly force to protect yourself. Now, that said, all states look at this a teeny bit differently. Some states have a stand your ground. Other states say you have to try and retreat if you can. And if you can't retreat anymore, then you can protect yourself. I believe that's how it is in Wisconsin. But when we look at this, Kyle Rittenhouse tripped and was knocked down and was being pummeled and assaulted, people reaching for him and pointing guns. You can't retreat any further when your back is on the ground, literally. When you're lying flat on your back, you can't retreat. He was trying to retreat. He was in the process of retreating and running away, getting away from the situation, trying to be left alone, defusing the situation. He was doing all those things. He was not running and flipping him the bird as he ran and calling him dirty names. Kyle Rittenhouse was just trying to get away. As far as I'm concerned, he was above and beyond threatened, his life being threatened. They were physically shouting at him that they were going to kill him. He was struck violently and physically. One of them had a gun pointed at him. He had a right to defend himself. People were being murdered in those riots, folks. Buildings were being burned, businesses were being looted, policemen were being attacked even. If they're willing to attack policemen, throw bottles, Molotov cocktails, rocks, bricks, if they're willing to set them on fire in their police stations, do you think that Kyle Rittenhouse would have gotten a modicum of mercy from them? Not a chance. We got D-Man. He says, at risk of sounding ignorant, could we ask John to nail down how we know when it's time to bug out? I am fit, armed, lone, older female, considered tough. Worked in a Texas prison system for years. Don't see myself as a soft target, but probably M1. Bug out retreat is 65 miles away. Thank you. For all of us, it's going to be a different answer. Is that 65 miles through the desert, through country road, or is it through urban streets? Are those urban streets full of rioters, protesters, looters, murderers, rapists, assaulters, etc.? Are they leftists? It's a big consideration. Are they threatening you at work? Are they threatening you at home? Or are they threatening you in general? And I'm not just talking about you in Texas, but you anywhere in the world. You bug out when your sense of personal safety is now so bad that you feel you should be someplace else. That's when you know you should bug out, is when you sense that where you're at is not sufficient and is directly threatened, and that bugging out 65 miles away, 20 miles away, 100 miles away, whatever this distance is, your bug out or bunker location are, if you feel that going there is the better move and it's inevitable, right? Yeah, you better start considering it. Right now, I don't consider anywhere a threat, except in Portland, I guess, or anywhere Antifa is rioting on a daily basis. The mainstream media doesn't tend to cover that much. But whether you're fit or not, whether you're armed or not, whether you're alone or in a group, whether you're considered tough or weak, whether you worked in a prison, it doesn't matter. If there's one of you and 3, 4, or 5 BLM or 3, 4, or 5 Antifa, if they think they outnumber you, they do, because there's 3 or 4 or 5 of them and there's only 1 or 2 of you. They will only attack when they have greater numbers and they have sufficient physical advantage over you. So if you're in a neighborhood that has 10 well-armed, well-trained, tough people who are experienced, and you've got 100 Antifa coming at you, you're probably in pretty good standing and would be able to persuade them to go another direction. But if there's one of you and 100 of them coming at you and no one supporting you, no one on your side, you're going to have a hell of a time, right? I'm not talking about a jury trial. I'm talking about dealing with them. So it's a very personal decision. Some people are more of my home is my castle and I will defend it to the death, and I have nowhere else to retreat to or bug out to, so I'm bunkered in at my house. A lot of people are of that mind. And folks, when you got nowhere to go, in other words, if you're already backed up against the cliff, a lot of people are just going to fight from that situation. We'll see how it plays out. It's coming, though, as Kaz at the Fourth Dimension channel on YouTube points out. It's coming. And as I pointed out, there is no way out of this except to go through all of the rigmarole, hurt, trauma, and pain of SHTF. Now we got Cat Got Your Tongue with a question. Have you heard about the Russian Poseidon tsunami bomb? That's about an East Coast attack. Yeah, this has been a concept and a theory that a piece of nuclear ordnance, a nuclear bomb, can be detonated on the ocean floor or a sea floor that will cause, right, an explosion. What it'll do is it'll push water in a direction. A lot of people spoke of Fukushima as just such an event, that it wasn't an earthquake, but rather a nuclear device that was detonated on the floor to create this giant surge of water. And yeah, that could happen on the East Coast. It could happen in the Gulf of Mexico. It could happen off the coast of Florida. It could happen off the coast of Hawaii. It could happen off the coast of Taiwan, or maybe even Japan again. Ungrateful Peasant says, better stock up on your bug out location because you are just a refugee if you leave your resources behind. Yeah, if you have a bug out location that when things get really bad, you go there, whether it's a bunker or bug out location, like my bunker, like a house at another location, whatever it is you have, you should have full preparations there as well. Nothing is easy. Nothing is foolproof or foolproof. Nothing is guaranteed, folks, but chance favors the prepared mind. Chance favors the prepared mind. And that's why we say that. Like if you do nothing, you're not putting much good in your corner. If you're stuck in a corner, you're back against the wall, or you're backed up to a cliff, and you've got no food, and you've got no way to get water or purify it and sanitize it, if you've got no spare clothing or adequate clothing, if you've got no adequate medicine and supplies, if you have no adequate shelter, what are your odds of survival? Especially in the winter, if you're in a northern climate area that gets cold. Anything that drops below 50 degrees at night is cold climate, and you can die of hypothermia. Right? Having books, survival books, knowing survival techniques, having the adequate supplies, all of this puts the odds in your favor. If you have all of the necessary items and someone who is your adversary doesn't, you can outlast them. You're going to be healthier, stronger, more agile. You're going to sleep better. You're going to be more awake during the day. Right? Chance favors the prepared mind. So I ask, is yours? And I say this to you: Semper Fi. It means always faithful. Always faithful, folks. Make your own decisions. Free choice. Right? Pro-choice. Yeah, I'm pro-choice. I choose to have the First Amendment. I choose to have the Second. I choose the Fourth, Fifth, the Sixth, the Eighth, the 10th. I choose freedom. I choose liberty. I choose the Declaration of Independence. I choose rugged individualism. I choose to be a prepper. I choose. I want free choice. My life matters. I have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I do not have to risk my life because a little teeny doctor says that that is a preconceived or ill-conceived or improperly maintained perspective. His opinion is shit. What I know to be the facts and the truth, those are real. Those are real, folks. And I have the courage of my convictions. Do you? Don't give up hope. Don't give up faith, folks. Get prepared. Semper Fi. And Godspeed.